Hi everybody, welcome to part two of this professional communications lecture. So there are a number of different forms of professional comms if we're talking about this in terms of public relations. We can think about press releases, including video press releases, social media management, press conferences, advertising material, documentaries, public service campaigns. There's lots and lots of examples. I have put up on the Milo page an analysis of the Not an Ambulance campaign, and within that you'll see in a really nice clip. This is a really interesting campaign. It won numerous awards when it was launched a couple of years ago, primarily because it was quite a complex subject matter. It was about, and you'll see it when you watch the campaign, it was about trying to encourage people. It was from the National Health Service in Britain, and it was trying to encourage people to look after their drunk friends so they don't they don't need ambulances to take them home. It frees up the ambulance service to do more vital work. It was basically about pastoral care of your friends. So this is a slightly difficult message, not that it's a problematic message, but more that it was complex. So so this campaign handled it very well and did it on a reasonably tight budget, but it also used multimedia. It had a strong social media presence, but it also used a lot of video material and things like this, and I think it was on the mainstream media too. So it's a really good example of a strong public relations campaign that again also used press material, also used press releases, and a lot of textual based material that needed to be written. So professional communications in journalism, which I mentioned in the previous lecture, the role of the mainstream media is changing a little bit in terms of public relations, but journalism is still the primary conduit for professional comms. PR practitioners act as information subsidies, providing news organisations with content that would otherwise cost them more to produce. I think I've discussed this before in classes. As the mainstream media goes through some kind of social change and economic upheaval, there is less information being produced by journalists themselves, and the subsidy of information is being taken up by communications people. Because public relations often involves gaining media attention for clients and organisations, PR practitioners must have a strong understanding and knowledge of how the media operates. And within this, we need to think about news values and media policies and practice. So news values, and I have a reasonably long quote here, which I'll quickly read out. News values provide the criteria in the routine practice of journalism, which enables media professionals to decide which stories are newsworthy and which are not, which stories are major lead stories and which are relatively insignificant, which stories to run and which to drop. Although they're nowhere written down, formally transmitted or codified, news values seem to be widely shared, a form of core element in the professional socialisation practice and ideology of news media practitioners. So news values have this basis in ideology, this basis in what the collective sense of what is right and what is valuable and what elements are right and valuable. And examples of this might be timeliness. A story that happened yesterday or today will have more inherent value than one that happened a long time ago. And of course, this is very much tied in with the way that the media operates. The media operates on this very cyclical and immediate functionality, and we as consumers we soon naturalize that as being normal and being the way the news works. But of course all these are ideologically constructed. So we have timeliness, we have proximity. So if something is close to us, if something is local, it will have more resonance. Something is prominent, if something is big or significant, and of course notions of significance are very ideological. What is significant? What does that mean? Again, we have this kind of collective response. So, say, a lot of people in Europe are getting sick from COVID-19. Essentially, this might not have any real meaning to us here in Australia in terms of its distance or whatever, but It does. There are lots of different reasons why it does resonate with us. I mean, we have a kind of an innate human connection with people. There's a strong European contact between, or a strong cultural contact between Western Europe and Australia. There are all these other things which make it newsworthy. So human interest, obviously, conflict is a very important, but again ideologically structured part of news values. Impact and celebrity, and it's knowing those kind of things, and we can talk about these more perhaps in seminars next week. Knowing these things, knowing how they work, and knowing that these are the things that are considered important and valuable in news, of course, will resonate if you're trying to produce professional communications and trying to elicit interest from the publics that you choose. So we have this concept here of visible and invisible public relations. So invisible PR, so this media management, where PR consultants are brought in as gatekeepers in order to control the message getting out to the public. Sometimes this relates to controlling the reputation of an organisation, but it can also relate to public safety, police investigations, issues of privacy. So that's where the PR, the public relations person, the professional communicator, is working via some other front. Okay, so I had a clip on Milo there of Andrew Cuomo talking, and of course it seems like he's just talking as the role of the governor, but all what he's doing is very much a public relations event, and you'll see this on all government sort of public relations. These are public relations events, but they don't seem to be as such. They seem to be more the natural processes of governance or the natural processes of communication. And then we have the idea of visible PR. So that's planned events, okay? So publicity stunts or even press conferences to a point of visible PR. A press conference might cross the line a little bit, or someone like Cuomo talking might sort of be in that grey area between the two. But sometimes some things are just highly visible public relations. A product launch, the launch of a new app for COVID-19 or something like this. So these are events to overtly get people's attention. Invisible PR looks like news, and this is where your next assignment will be in writing a press release. And press releases look very much like news stories, and we talk about this a little bit in the third part of this lecture. But they look like news, and they're designed to read like news and have the same structure as a news story. Interestingly, more than half of all news now comes from PR sources. That is growing all the time. And again, this is part of the economic model of mainstream news, but also is indicative of how big professional communications is as an industry. And certainly I'm a big advocate for this, for graduates to think about this as their first step in their careers is in communications and professional communications, because it's a big growing area, which is and a very exciting one to work in. Social media is massively significant here. Social media is increasingly either the primary source for information or the main gateway through which the public gather their information. And professional comms writers need to work across all media. They need a good PR person should be able to write a really beautiful tweet, should be able to write a great press release, or even longer copy if necessary. It's a very there needs to be a great diversity in skill and in writing skill. And we've found out just through doing the exercises that we have, whether that be writing a feature or writing a news story or writing a lead or all these different things. Writing in different genres is not as simple as it sounds. You sort of have to think in a different way as much as being able to just write in a different way. That's the end of that little mini lecture. I'll put part 3 up as well.